From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
When are you going to get eyes on what's here?
A community meeting with Maricopa County Sheriff Paul Penzone gets heated over immigration detentions in the valley.
The mayors of Phoenix and Mesa are in the nation's capital asking for bold moves to create affordable housing for the homeless.
Plus, the Doomsday Clock is unveiled. It's 2 minutes to midnight. We'll hear from Arizona scientist Lawrence Krauss on what that means for our future.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Gabriel Gamino.
And I'm Nicole Costantino. Thank you for joining us. Emotions ran high among community members at a forum with Maricopa County Sheriff Paul Penzone last night. Olivia Richard attended the meeting.
It was standing room only at the community meeting Maricopa County Sheriff Paul Penzone held last night. Penzone said the forum's purpose was to bridge the gap in understanding between the community and the sheriff's department. There was no shortage of emotion and no words spared at the community meeting held by Maricopa County Sheriff's Office last night.
Here to expose the fact that you are just as bad, if not worse, than Arpaio.
The topic on everyone's mind?
When are you going to get eyes on what's here?
For them, Sheriff Paul Penzone had a harsh reality to deliver.
Boys will not be coming out of the jail with certain changes in immigration laws. We are still a nation of laws.
Person after person took the mic, sharing stories of tragedy from the past.
It's a very weak defense because they know when somebody goes in there through the fingerprinting and everything they do, they know when somebody is somebody that's very dangerous to the community.
Penzone promised to look into any issues and asked the community to move forward with him.
This will be an effort by all of us because no one person can make this change.
Sheriff Penzone encouraged attendees who had issues with the deputies to file formal complaints with his office so that they could be investigated. In the broadcast center, Olivia Richard, Cronkite News.
Arizona Senator Jeff Flake says he's not overly optimistic on the future of a DACA deal, even though President Donald Trump says he's now would consider a decade-long path to citizenship for enrollees in the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. But Flake thinks the plan could help the Senate get the 65 to 70 votes they need to help DACA, along with funding for a border wall. Flake told Cronkite News today, quote, "The president helped out those of us that want a citizenship deal. He helped out a great deal, but he also said there is still a long way to go to an agreement."
Governor Doug Ducey announced today an expansion in the program that puts Arizona students on a career track before they start college. Reporter Sydney Eisenberg shows us how students will be able to earn industry-specific degrees while still in high school.
The Arizona Pathways to Prosperity program is growing thanks to new partnerships between the state and private donors. The goal? Help students enter the workforce quicker. The $1.24 million investment will allow the program to connect students with employers and outfit them with skills based on an industry's needs.
This is a way to bring the supply and demand side of the equation together.
High school students will be able to earn college credit and industry credentials while still working towards their high school degree. The funds will create career pathways for a spectrum of industries over a 3-year period, including cybersecurity, energy, and health and bioscience fields. Governor Ducey says the pathways are not restricted to just one industry.
Oftentimes, we don't know what the job of the future is going to be, and we know that people are going to have several jobs throughout their career.
The state itself invested $500,000 into the program, which has been around since 2015. In Phoenix, Sydney Eisenberg, Cronkite News.
The Arizona Office of Economic Opportunity predicts Arizona will see a 2.4% growth in jobs by the end of 2018 compared to 2016.
Mayors from Phoenix and Mesa joined leaders from across the nation, today to unveil a new model with dealing with homelessness. Ariana Bustos is live at our D.C. bureau with the story.
Yesterday, Mesa Mayor John Giles was leading a panel of mayors at a conference here as they talked about approaches to homelessness. Today, Giles was following as more than a dozen mayors toured a Washington, D.C. public housing project in their continued search for a solution.
Mayor John Giles said despite actions against homelessness, the dilemma only continues to grow.
When I started this job 3 years ago, homelessness was a problem in my city. Now it is the problem in my city.
Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton joined Giles and others to launch Mayors and CEOs for U.S. Housing Investment, a public-private partnership that aims to tackle homelessness and provide affordable housing. The partnership advocates for policy and funding reforms at the federal level, communication, and coalition building. Giles said this coalition is the best way to fight their homeless problem.
The need in my community outstrips the resources that we have. And so it is only, if we are going to be serious about attacking this problem, the only way we can do it is the coalition that you see before you.
Mayor Stanton stressed policy changes and said the program worked at a local level to fight homelessness, but should be at a federal level.
Now's not the time to cut key programs that support people experiencing homelessness. Now's the time to invest more, because we're investing more at the local level, but yet the situation is getting larger in our country.
The conference took place in a D.C. public housing unit for veterans on the street and low to moderate income residents.
Roughly half of them are filled by veterans who were formerly homeless.
The program aims to build that type of housing in more cities like Phoenix and Mesa. Denver Mayor Michael Hancock said at the conference, the homelessness problem isn't unique.
It's not isolated in just Aurora, Colorado, or Denver, Colorado, or Los Angeles, or D.C. It's also in Portland and Phoenix, Sacramento, as you just heard. This is a national crisis.
It may be a national issue, but the mayors here all agreed that cities have to step forward because the federal government has not. In Washington, Ariana Bustos, Cronkite News.
President Trump met with several world leaders this morning during the World Economic Forum happening all week in Davos, Switzerland, to encourage global companies to invest in the United States. Some world leaders the president met with include Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and English Prime Minister Theresa May. He is the first president to attend the World Economic Forum in 20 years. The White House says the president also stressed his America First policies, in addition to seeking different trade policies from U.S. allies.
Rising tensions between North Korea and the United States have brought the Doomsday Clock 30 seconds closer to midnight, or the edge of global annihilation. But nuclear war is not the only danger. One Arizona State professor said there is a specific threat to the Southwest on the horizon. Cronkite News reporter Austin Bundy has more from Washington.
Until today, the Doomsday Clock read 2.5 minutes to midnight. The world is inching closer to destruction because of nuclear war and a new threat, climate change, which ASU professor Lawrence Krauss says could pose a large threat to the Southwest.
Climate change will not be the same throughout the whole world. And one of the big things we need to concern about is our droughts, and the Southwest will be hit hard.
Krauss, the chairman of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, which maintains the Doomsday Clock, thinks extreme drought will damage farms in Mexico, forcing millions of immigrants to flee north across the U.S. border over the next 20 years.
So the people who, on one hand, want to prevent illegal immigration, and the other hand, deny climate change, are working in opposite directions.
The Doomsday Clock is now at 2 minutes to midnight, the closest it has ever been since 1953. However, Krauss said there is still time to turn things around, and hopes tools like the internet can help start a global discussion.
And the Doomsday Clock should not be a cause for people to throw up their hands and give up, but rather a cause for people to work together to try and, as a global community, move that hand back.
In Washington, Austin Bundy, Cronkite News.
This is the second time in a year that the clock has ticked closer to midnight. Scientists moved it 30 seconds closer last January. LGBT conversion therapy has been controversial for years.
But an Arizona lawmaker wants it to stop in our state. Coming up on Cronkite News, we talk to Senator Sean Bowie about Senate Bill 1160 and how it aims to protect LGBTs.
Plus, Jewish hate crimes have been on the rise in Arizona. How an ex-Westboro Baptist church member is spreading love instead of hate.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland, in Washington, in Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
State lawmakers are making progress in their special session at the Capitol to combat opioid addiction. The bill that's moving through both the House and the Senate is based on Governor Doug Ducey's proposal to reduce overdoses. House Republicans and Democrats held caucuses on the bill. The bill would allow doctors to only prescribe 5 days worth of pain medication. It would also increase pain clinic regulation and provide $10 million to help uninsured people get addiction treatment.
Arizona could become the 10th state in the U.S. to ban so-called conversion therapy on LGBT teens. I spoke with Arizona Senator Sean Bowie to see why he thinks this ban could save lives.
And conversion therapy is the idea that young people who are LGBT, that their sexual orientation can be cured away or converted away.
Converted using techniques like induced nausea and electric shock. That's why Arizona Senator Sean Bowie wants to halt these practices on Arizona's LGBT teens.
This was an example of a protection that we wanted to bring in place for our young people so they wouldn't have to endure this kind of harmful practice.
Senator Bowie says he was inspired by states like Nevada and New Mexico, the states shown here in green, where governors on both political sides signed similar bills, according to the Movement Advancement Project.
We want to make sure that our young LGBT community are safe and protected and not discriminated against because of their sexual orientation.
A poll by Hart Research Associates found that 59% of Arizona voters don't want conversion therapy practiced in the state, and the experts we found are against it too.
Now, what is the point? There is absolutely no empirical evidence.
Nurse practitioner of psychiatry Denitza Oparnica sees clients who have gone through conversion therapy. She says treatment can actually add to their emotional distress.
A lot of therapy and antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications.
Senator Bowie says this bill will bring awareness to the fight he says LGBT teens go through every day. Senator Bowie hopes to have the bill passed by April.
In 2017, anti-Semitic incidents in K-12 Arizona schools more than doubled compared to the previous year. Here in the Valley, a local organization is pushing to teach young kids about the negative impact these incidents have in order to combat hate crimes before they even happen. Cronkite News reporter Alexis Burdine brings us a story about how one woman changed her life and is now educating others.
This was not the truth that I had been taught.
Listening intently, a room full of high schoolers learns how someone can go from a life of prejudice to one of tolerance. It's a lesson Megan Phelps-Roper knows too well.
We were designing and sending anti-gay and anti-Semitic news releases.
She's an ex-member of the controversial Westboro Baptist Church. She says an interaction with a Jewish man on Twitter is what actually helped her realize what she thought was right was wrong.
I feel incredibly lucky to have had, a Jewish person and him explaining Jewish values to me in a way that I had not been taught.
That was then. Now, she compassionately shares what she's learned with the same people she once relentlessly targeted. The local chapter of the Anti-Defamation League gave Phelps-Roper the platform to engage with high schoolers at a time when the number of anti-Semitic hate crimes is on the rise. According to FBI data, in 2016, over 54% of reported hate crimes on a national level targeted the Jewish community. In Phoenix, 22 of the 175 hate crimes reported were anti-Semitic. In Arizona, the Anti-Defamation League says in the first 3 quarters of 2017, there was a total of 20 anti-Jewish hate crimes, consisting of 5 incidents of vandalism, 14 of harassment, and 1 assault. Dave Schlegel is a sophomore in high school here in the Valley and a member of the Jewish community, who says that he's had his own experiences with hate crimes.
A Jewish gay person in our community died
due to somebody throwing them against a wall and hitting them with rocks.
Schlegel says he hears Holocaust jokes at school and derogatory comments about his faith. The Anti-Defamation League says these jokes can cause real harm.
It's an act of anti-Semitism. It just doesn't impact one Jewish person or one Jewish family. It impacts their school, their neighborhood, and then it impacts the whole community.
The focus of workshops like these is to teach teenagers early on how to engage in more compassionate dialogues in the future. In Scottsdale, Alexis Burdine, Cronkite News.
The most recent data available from the FBI is from 2016, a year in which hate crimes as a whole across the country rose 5% compared to the previous year. You may see some fireballs in the sky in downtown Phoenix tonight.
We'll explain coming up.
Plus, the Cronkite Los Angeles Bureau takes a look at how organic farming in California affects Arizona produce.
And I'll tell you when we expect to see record-breaking temperatures here in the Valley.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. Join us each weekday at 5:30 and 10 as we bring you the top newsmakers who impact the state. We cover the stories in depth that shape and affect our local communities, and we take the time to ensure that all voices are equally heard. For more than 30 years, Arizona Horizon has been your voice and your source for what matters most, right here on Arizona PBS.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
Exploring, that's the lifeblood of the mission.
Human beings are a curious bunch.
What are we going to see when we get really close?
Just because an idea is crazy, it's not necessarily wrong.
We were on our way.
You don't get anywhere until you've tested the limits.
That carries an intensity you can't imagine.
You could hear people just, whoa.
Oh my God, absolutely spectacular.
It's a rush.
We ask a lot of our heroes.
We are at a remarkable moment.
We're going farther than any exploration ever has.
Organic agriculture production continues to reach double-digit sale increases in this country, but regulations with California and Arizona farms leave a lot to be desired. Brooke DeGumbia has more.
These avocados contribute to California's organic industry. The state is the leading producer of organic agriculture in the country. Arizona is 14th, according to the USDA. At Fairfield Farms in San Diego, Lorena Hernandez says it's not easy to make sure her crops earn California's organic label, the nation's toughest.
We do soil samples, we do leaf samples to see where their nutritions are at. So if they're really low, like on calcium, and then they're really high on salt. It's like we have to, try and balance that.
California is the only state with its own organic program, put in place to ensure consumers are buying organics true to the label. Other states like Arizona must go through the USDA to find a certifying agent, which does not address food safety or nutrition.
You could tell somebody, oh yeah, I'm all organic, here's all my paperwork, but at the same time, if you know when they're coming, it's like you hide everything else. There is a very big window for you to put stuff out there that's not considered organic.
Experts say true organic foods bring certain health benefits.
Trying to limit chemicals and processed things going into our body is helpful if you can do that.
Ensuring you get true organics like those from Fairfield Farms will cost you. The long process often drives up the cost by as much as 47%. But this California farmer coordinator says it's worth it.
And it's not just about getting that organic label, but it's being true to that organic label.
In San Diego County, Brooke DeGumbia, Cronkite News.
California produces more than 90% of all U.S. organic sales for 14 different commodities, including 99% of walnuts, lemons, figs, and artichokes, and 100% of almonds and dates.
Barrett Jackson came to a close last week, and the cars sold at the auto auction in Scottsdale provided the company with over $100 million in charitable donations. According to their website, the sale of 10 vehicles raised over $6 million for a good cause. Some of the charities involved were the Autism Alliance of Michigan, Boys Republic, and the George W. Bush Presidential Center's Military Service Initiative. This year's auction sales totaled more than $116 million. And don't be alarmed by the fireballs in the sky in downtown Phoenix tonight. It's all part of a big celebration of the Arizona Science Center for its Pompeii exhibit. The center released a sneak peek of its mechanism it will use to recreate the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. The reenactment will happen tonight at 6:30, 7:30, and 8:30 on the roof of the center. And the weather looks like it's heating up as well. Nicole is tracking the latest in the Weather Center.
Yeah, we saw 74 degrees for our high today. Beautiful day. Hopefully you got outside. But if you didn't, let's go ahead and take a look at our temperatures around the valley right now. 74 degrees in Phoenix, 73 in Glendale, 73 in Scottsdale. Pretty consistent in those mid to high 70s. Let's look at temperatures across the country. Basically, it's not nice anywhere else but Phoenix, Arizona right now with 74. Look at this, 30 in Pittsburgh, 32 in New York, 56 in Atlanta. Let's bring it back home now. We're going to look at your high temperatures for tomorrow. 66 in Phoenix, 44 in Show, 39 in Flagstaff, 42 in the Grand Canyon. So let's go ahead and as you start your weekend, we're going to have a beautiful day. 68 degrees for Friday, 74 degrees for Saturday. And then look, on Sunday, followed by Monday, we're seeing record-breaking temperatures with temperatures in the 80 degrees. And that we're going to see that continue all throughout the rest of the week before we hit Thursday when we start to see us cooling down into the 70s.
It's a $160 million plan to boost the sports facilities in Tempe. Coming up on Cronkite News, the latest on the upgrades for the Wells Fargo Arena and more. Plus, an Arizona high school basketball team is at the top of its game, but it's not the only game for these players. Meet some multi-talented athletes next.
Cronkite News weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
Fridays, it's at Cronkite News, your social sharing connection where you choose the news. Facebook likes and shares, tweets, retweets, and favorites. YouTube views and subscriptions. We're watching you watch us. From our digital home at cronkitenews.azpbs.org to your television, web browser, or mobile device. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Then join us for At Cronkite News, our weekly refresh, each Friday at 5 on Arizona PBS.
Cronkite News is tracking the Arizona Board of Regents as they discussed a new $160 million sports complex for Tempe this afternoon. The Arizona Board of Regents Business and Finance Committee met this afternoon to review renovation plans for Wells Fargo Arena. The $160 million project will build a new indoor sports complex on the east side of the arena. The new building will host the Sun Devil ice hockey, gymnastics, and wrestling programs.
There have been two sport athletes across the athletics landscape for decades. Those origins begin at the high school level, and Phoenix is home to a unique trio of basketball players who wear multiple hats in the sports world. Noah Friedman has the story on these up-and-coming athletes.
Pinnacle High School's boys basketball team is ranked number 5 in the state with the most unlikely cast of characters. One of the nation's top quarterbacks, a stud pitcher on his way to USC, and a 16-year-old NBA veteran son who Sports Illustrated already called a basketball prodigy.
A couple of these kids could be special, and we could be watching them on Saturday afternoons or at night or Sunday afternoons.
The quarterback, Spencer Rattler, committed to play football at Oklahoma. Calvin Shapira throws fastballs in excess of 90 miles an hour. And the basketball star, Nico Mannion, well, a dunk he threw down in 8th grade has been viewed more than 800,000 times on Vine.
Us three are pretty close, and we're close enough to talk about that kind of stuff, so we help each other out more off the field than on the court or field.
Basketball just helps me with everything on the football field, too. I mean, footwork, agility, speed, conditioning for sure. I just feel like I have that advantage on the football guys when I get back from basketball.
Baseball never really leaves. It's always around, so basketball is just kind of like another thing, but you know, it's pretty easy, it's pretty fun. They're both different sports.
The Pioneers haven't advanced to the Division 6A state championship game since the 2013-2014 campaign. But this year could be different, with chemistry playing the vital role between the three athletes in the three different sports.
We actually mesh pretty well just because we all kind of have that same mindset, because I think regardless of what sport it is.
Pinnacle is undefeated in the 6A desert basketball standings and should be in contention for another sectional title. In North Phoenix, Noah Friedman, Cronkite News.
According to the school, nearly 50% of the Pinnacle boys basketball team players either play football or baseball as well.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, State Attorney General Mark Brnovich responds to the results of a university cost study. And Superintendent of Public Instruction Diane Douglas talks about her plan for a state education tax.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next NewsHour. Why much of Puerto Rico is still without power months after Hurricane Maria. That's Thursday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.